Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sixers Sense Podcast. We are recording post-trade deadline. And, while me and Chris are plenty, we just felt like we needed more for this episode. So we brought in two guys. Maurice, who is my buddy, he's been on the podcast before, but him and Chris have never actually crossed paths, so this is the first time for us. And Maurice is a part of 14 Rings and NFC East Podcast with me. He covers the Eagles, and he's on my other podcast with Uriah. Long-time listeners know who he is, and that is NBA Now and Then, The Greatest Comparisons. And to save the best for last is Zach. Is this your first time on the Sixer Sense?
Yeah, I might have been on. I feel like 3 or so years ago. Is it really
second time? Yeah, it's been a
couple years
while,
ago, maybe. But
that's right, because you were still covering the Kings. But
I think I was. I think that's what I was brought on for last time. Yeah.
Yes. So Zach Ciavolella for Philly Sports Network used to cover the Kings for Fansided. Now he does Philly Sports Network. Bravo. We love having you on.
Yes.
And it's crazy because during the trade deadline, I was calling Zach, and we were just chatting about the AD trade, which we'll get to. I'm sure we'll get to all this stuff. And then a big Sixers bomb dropped, and I guess that's where we're going to start. Right, Chris?
Yeah, guys. So probably not going to be the happiest episode we've ever recorded. I'm glad we're all here.
Nobody rage quit.
Together.
Nobody crash out.
Yeah, this sucks, honestly. I was really pissed off. Jared McCain sent to the Oklahoma City Thunder for a 2026 first-round pick via the Houston Rockets and 3 future second-round picks. No players coming back in this one. Ousmane Dieng got rerouted to Chicago through a bunch of different trades. This was pretty much a salary dump to get below the cap, free up some space to sign Dom Barlow. Philly also got rid of Eric Gordon's contract, so they got rid of 2 guys, took back 0. Really kind of gutted their guard depth a little bit. I'll go to you first, Maurice. What was your gut reaction? We can kind of go around the room here. What was your first reaction to this news?
Keep it PG.
Well, Lucas can also attest to this. I was at work as well. I had to go hide in the hallway real quick. And
I called him.
Lucas called me. I was like, "Oh man, what is going on here?" I mean, I don't want to steal everybody's thunder, but just bringing up everything. But you trade a player who could have been the rookie of the year last year, barring an injury. You trade a guy who's great vibes from everything I've heard in the locker room on during the trips. Just all over a good guy. And, he's had a bad season coming back from the knee injury. And, he's had a slow start. I mean, would we see the same Jared McCain from last year? Probably not, with more guys on the team, including VJ. But overall, he does something really well. He's a shooter, and he's a good ball handler, and he's a really underrated facilitator that this team could definitely need off the bench. One of the biggest weaknesses for this team is bench scoring, and he adds that, and then you just take it away. Many more things, but I'll let you guys go.
Zach, how about you, man?
Yeah.
I know we were talking literally as the trade happened, and then you're like, I gotta go.
Yeah, I think I have a slightly different perspective on the deal than a lot of people. Just what I've noticed through conversations that I've had with Sixers fans online and some of what I've read from others. Being around Jared, I have the blessing of attending practices, going to games, covering the team at that depth. And one thing that I've noticed, and I wrote an article a few months ago about the disconnect between Jared McCain and Nick Nurse, and I do firmly believe that there was that disconnect that effectively comes down to the style that Nick Nurse likes to run, and Jared McCain, frankly, just not being an easy fit for that system right now. A couple things I will say.
That?
Absolutely. Before I do, I just want to make something perfectly clear about Jared McCain. From the players, absolutely beloved. We've seen that. I think a lot of us have seen Tyrese Maxey's reaction so far. The outpour of love on Instagram from a lot of different Sixers players. Adem Bono was particularly close with him. They spent last season inseparable, the two of them. A lot of love for Jared. And a lot of the reason that is not just his charismatic personality, but he's one of the hardest workers that you're going to find in the league. And that's something that Tyrese Maxey has really been passionate about implementing team-wide, is that hustle first, hustle last mentality. Just the constant grind, leaving everything that you have out there on the court. And that's something that, whether in practice, whether in games, Jared McCain did that every single time, right? So it's tough to lose a player like that, and you think that's a coach's darling. But the frank truth is, when you look at things from McCain's measurables to his strengths and admitted weaknesses, they just don't naturally line up with what Nick Nurse likes to run, especially not to the degree of somebody like, say, VJ Edgecombe, Quentin Grimes, as well, is better suited for a lot of what Nick likes to run. And I want to be perfectly clear, I have nothing to say about the personal relationship between Nick Nurse and Jared McCain. Strictly professionally, I just think it was a player who didn't line up with the coaching philosophy of the head coach. And so when you look at a player who's not necessarily going to get the opportunity to either A, rehab properly, as we saw throughout the entire season, his minutes have been inconsistent throughout the season, and B, to grow, because again, he's a 21-year-old guard, so there's still a lot of growing left to do in McCain's game. If you're not going to get that opportunity from a strictly business perspective, if you have accepted that reality, if you're Daryl Morey, it makes sense to get what you can out of that player. Now, I'm not defending the move by any means. I personally think the move was a mistake. It's not the move that I would have made. I do not have a very high grade on it. And I think that you traded McCain at arguably his lowest value of his career so far. I would have waited to the offseason, tried to rehab that value a little bit if you were intent on moving him. But that being said, ducking the luxury tax is absolutely a factor at play here. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But I think it's a bit of a two birds, one stone, where you have the ability to capitalize on the value of a young, promising player while also being able to duck the tax at the same time. And I don't expect that to make anybody feel better about the situation, speaking of Sixers fans, but that to me is the reality that we're looking at.
Yeah, no, Zach, I tend to agree. It just from inside, doesn't feel like Jared McCain was ever really Nick Nurse's guy. He only played last year when we had so many injuries, and then he, of course, went off. Just never felt like Nick Nurse really even wanted Jared McCain. That felt like a Daryl Morey pick, not a Nick Nurse pick. And this feels like more of a Nick Nurse trade than a Daryl Morey trade. Not saying that Daryl obviously had to sign off on it, and like you said, two birds, one stone there. I do want to make three comparisons, though, because we have there have been guards that have come and go. Some of them have done well. Some of them have not. Let me start with the first one. This is the most common one that I see on Twitter. This is the least likely outcome that I do want to point out, is the MCW comparison. We sold high on his value, rookie of the year, all that, ended up not working out. I don't believe that narrative. Let's be clear. I do not believe that narrative. But that is a possibility, right? Jared McCain could go to OKC, get buried on the depth, and just never really hit, right? Second one, this is I think this is possible, right? Becomes a journeyman, kind of like Landry Shamet. I was high on Shamet when we had him. I thought he was going to be the heir apparent to JJ Redick. I honestly did. Had some of the same skills, some of the same off-ball movement, became a journeyman, now has found a home in New York, but took a while, right? That could be Jared. Or this next one isn't really a Sixers comparison, but we've seen the Jalen Brunson comparisons too. Like it could go that way. Now I doubt it goes that way just because where OKC is, but I think the Landry Shamet is probably the most likely outcome. And I mean, look, while I do believe I don't agree with trading him. Let's be clear. I was very mad about that. I was furious. If you look from a pure, asset acquisition, besides ducking the salary tax, what I think was stupid, but whatever. It's not like Josh Harris doesn't have other teams funneling in money for him. But okay, cool.
That's your guy, right?
We're not going to talk about that right now. But what we are going to talk about is that you got a first-round pick, granted not a great one, but you got 4 picks for a guy who's barely in your rotation now. Should he be more in your rotation? Me and Chris have talked at length. Yes, he should be. Absolutely, he should be. He should have been, but he wasn't. But still, you still was able to get that type of value from contending team. Now, granted, we probably fixed their biggest problem, helped them fix one of their biggest problems, which was shooting, which I'm not happy about. And we actually was able to pull some assets from OKC, which is surprising because nobody can do that. So kudos to Daryl Morey. But honestly, you probably could have gotten more. I would have preferred 2 firsts versus a first and 3 seconds. But that's
Chris,
just
speak
me.
your truth.
Anyway.
I see you coming up with it. And I think that we're going to say the same
OKC
thing.
literally cannot use 4 picks next year. They don't have room for all these guys. They're going to have to trade them.
Then give us 2 picks instead of...
They've been kicking things down the road, spinning them into future picks.
Yeah. But anyway, my point is I don't like the move. It definitely feels like a Nick Nurse move. I don't like ownership ducking the tax yet again. But the good news is we get a pick in a loaded draft coming up.
Well, my issue with it, though, is that when you look at the picks that OKC had, right, the fact that the Rockets pick is the best that you can acquire out of those first-round picks.
Yeah, why couldn't we just get the protection taken off of our pick?
Well,
right?
That's effectively what I'm getting at is I feel like getting the Sixers pick back would have, and it would have been of more value, and that's why Oklahoma City likely, if that did come up in conversations, probably said no. To me, that would have killed conversations. But when you talk about, they got 4 picks back, that's great. Well, they just gave away 2 second-round picks. 3 of the picks, the 4 picks that they got were second-round picks. They gave away 2 second-round picks at the deadline last year to get off the salary of a guy that they signed to a balloon deal that they thought was a great idea, but then couldn't end up moving. So what does that tell you about how they value second-round picks? I truly believe in the value of second-round picks, but I think Morey historically has not shown that same faith. Now, he's been able to draft well in the second round, but he's also squandered second-round picks, I would say is fair to say also. So when it comes to, we got 4 picks, you have to consider the context of what are those 4 picks. It was the absolute worst of all the first-round picks they could have offered, and it's 3 second-round picks, something that the franchise has historically mismanaged. So for me, that's why I don't think that it was an opportune trade.
Yeah, they gave up one to get rid of Eric a day later. So,
But do we all agree that the Sixers didn't get equal value for the player, Jared McCain?
I think his potential, yes, but where he was currently in the rotation, probably overvalued.
I don't know. I think this is probably the going rate for a guy in McCain's position. I don't necessarily think OKC over or underpaid, but from Philly's perspective, it just seems extremely short-sighted. They don't have any guard depth now. If one of their 3 guards gets hurt, and they don't really have a real point guard, McCain was their best quote-unquote point guard of the bunch. They were going to be playing Kyle Lowry pretty significant minutes, which is not ideal. I think Zach made probably the most important point, which is that this guy was A, beloved by fans, and B, beloved in the locker room, and a really hard worker, and just had the character traits that guys like Maxey and VJ have, and was really important as a culture piece. And Maxey, the video you were referencing, Zach, he's almost crying, talking about how he's gonna miss VJ or miss McCain. Thank God it's not VJ, but that sucks. That's a really big blow. So you're betraying Maxey in a way. You're betraying Embiid in a way. We don't know how many more healthy seasons we're going to get out of all 3 of our stars. You're just not getting better, and you're giving up potentially significant future value. I think McCain is probably going to look really good in OKC if he can get the playing time. It just kind of sucks all around.
Well, you referenced the video of Maxey that we talked about, but one thing too, because you just talked about the fact that you're effectively undermining Embiid. Embiid was just over a week removed from calling out the team twice verbally, which is not typically his stance. Has been, that's not up for me, that's up for them to handle. And then this 1 year that he actually comes out and says, we've ducked the tax in the back. He mentions that specifically twice. And his ask is that we either keep the team together or, hold on with me, bear with me, this is going to be a little crazy, improve the team at the trade deadline. Those are his 2 asks, that you either stay the same or actually improve the team. And yet, what did the team do? Exactly what Embiid twice said he disapproves of, and that is ducking the tax. So that this is going to be, Daryl Morey is going to speak to media tomorrow at about noon. That is
You got any questions?
going to be asked. If not by me, by someone quicker than me. But that question will be asked about, how this effectively is being sold to the team, that this is in their best interest, because it's how can you expect the players? Joel Embiid has worked insanely hard to get back to where he is, and as quick as he's done it, and you're going to reward that by trading away somebody, a young budding player. And I get it, McCain has his flaws, but he is a young player with an elite skill. And Christopher, as you said, now they're shorthanded on guards, and ball handling was already a weakness of this team. Shooting was already a weakness of this team. So what do? We get rid of two of the better shooters. I know Eric Gordon wasn't playing, but on paper, he was still one of the better shooters on this team. Paul George is gone for another 20-plus games. What faith, and perhaps everything pivoted when that suspension came down. Perhaps that wasn't initially the plan. I know that there were talks earlier in the year, an attempt for the team to move off of Andre Drummond, who was originally the topic of conversation, trying to get under the tax, which has long been the strategy of the team. That is not new, that strategy. But the conversation prior was trying to get off of Andre Drummond, and I think Eric Gordon was still a part of that. The pivot to McCain, that signals to me that Philadelphia truly believes that this is a lost year, or at least the front office does, which signals as well that I think that there is some... Last year, there were a lot of questions on whether or not Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse would remain with the team after the embarrassing year the team suffered last year. They stayed with the team. I think that there has been enough that Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse feel confident in their positions, and I think that the team is trying to be forward-thinking with the way that they are approaching a lot of different facets of this. But one of those facets is not retaining a young developmental sharpshooter who, frankly, does not fit the team system.
That makes me mad.
Yeah. But you know what, though? What Daryl Moore, the points, not putting words in his mouth, the points he's going to make tomorrow at the press conference is, hey, we have a nice young wing. We want to give him a standard contract. We prioritize Barlow's money over, Eric Gordon and Jared McCain. They're going to prioritize re-signing Grimes, which I don't think they are. I don't think they are. I think Grimes is gone, regardless.
But that's an off-season issue, is the thing, right? So bringing back Grimes is an off-season issue, so you can trade McCain in the off-season if that is your primary concern. Yeah. They didn't need to move off of McCain to sign Barlow to this 1+1, which is going to be a very similar structure to what they did with Justin Edwards last year. But you did not need to move McCain. Like, you could have moved Andre Drummond in that case. And now this team has, I believe it's 14 second-round draft picks that are currently tradable. It should trade still be legal, obviously, but 14 second-round draft picks, and it's not that they were hurting for those second-round assets, right? Obviously, the more the better. You want to stockpile picks as much as you can, especially under today's CBA. But you were not in a position where you had a dire need for some of these second-round picks. These are picks that you're probably going to end up trading, whether you're dodging the salary tax in the future or whether you're adding a player who you think might be a buyout candidate, but you really want to secure their rights ahead of time. Like, this is not some golden treasure trove of assets that you got for Jared McCain. So I'm sorry, but you can't convince me that you could not have gotten a similar deal in the offseason, which is when Quentin Grimes becomes relevant. And the fact that you could have gotten off of Andre Drummond, who there was legitimate interest in, especially the Houston Rockets were one team interested in Andre Drummond in the wake of the Steven Adams injury.
That makes sense.
So you can't tell me that there was not an opportunity to achieve a lot of what you did, including converting Barlow. Walker, I believe, is going to be converted eventually. There's not a wealth of talent on the buyout market. I know Sixers fans love to think about that year they got Marco Bellinelli and Ersan Ilyasova. That is the 1% outcome. Like, that is far from what teams frequently
Cam Thomas doesnn't excite you.
Yeah, well, we'll talk
Cam Thomas does not excite
here.
me, and I think we'll get to that later on. But no, Cam Thomas
does
not excite me.
I do want to. Can I touch on the Quentin Grimes of it all? Because me and Chris have been talking about this. Quentin Grimes, for at least for the last month or so, should have been the odd man out. But for some reason, Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse have a love affair with Quentin Grimes. Now, am I saying Quentin Grimes is a bad player? No. But his shooting has been down. He's a better defender. That's basically what it is. He's a defender where McCain can't defend that well. And look, I like Quinn can do a little bit off the dribble, sure, but like I would have if like and I don't know, Zach, if this is even an option, but like, were they even talking about Quinn Grimes? I don't know, and like I feel like they should have been. Like
in
honestly,
reference to a potential trade.
Yeah, because like you're. Like, if I'm Quentin, and me and Chris have talked about this in the past, if I'm Quentin this offseason, I'm trying to get paid. That's why I took a chance on myself. Why would I stay with the Sixers where I know I'm going to have a limited role and probably limited pay? I'm going to try to find a team that's going to be a sucker and take me on my upside and pay me the most I can. Okay? He's not coming back. I have a strong feeling Quinn Grimes is not coming back. I could be wrong. But, like, it just feels like, oh, now we lost all of our depth. Now you have to pivot quickly. And, I don't know. I'm not convinced. And last question, Zach, and I don't know if you're allowed to ask this, but I would like to know who called first, OKC or Morey?
Yeah, honestly, it could go either way. Sam Presti and Daryl Morey are two of the most active callers around the league, and so I'm sure that they've had various calls back and forth about a number of different players, but... a couple things to kind of address things in a line here. First on Quentin Grimes, I think, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, I think that he's a better facilitator than Jared McCain, which is what the Sixers like. I think he's a worse decision maker, which sounds almost like opposing ideas, right? When you think about his ability as a passer, I think that he reads passing lanes better offensively than Jared McCain does. I think that he has better instincts on that end, but I think that he gets overconfident in himself sometimes, and I think that's where we see the shot fall off sometimes. I think that's where we see the decision making, the turnovers come up with Quentin Grimes. So it's almost I'm a drummer, so I kind of think of things in that realm of kind of like the best way to be a drummer is to be in the pocket, right? So it's not necessarily to be flashy. It's not necessarily to put on the grandest display, but you want to stay in the pocket. You want to stay in the rhythm, and I think that's something that Jared McCain did a lot better than Quentin Grimes. But with Grimes, you see more of that kind of marquee playmaking that you see in some, like an Anthony Edwards type, for instance. And I'm not saying he's on his level as far as that goes, but McCain is kind of vanilla, boring as a passer, whereas Grimes can make a few of those more difficult passes. So you think that gives him a little more versatility on that end. And he's a significantly better defender than Jared McCain, though McCain is a significant try-hard defensively, which matters. But when it comes to retaining him, I think Philadelphia thinks they have an opportunity to actually bring him back. And beyond that, he did have a no-trade clause after signing that quality offer
I know
this year.
Yeah.
So the issue is finding that – it's not that you can't trade him. It's that you need to find that perfect situation, which is so hard to do. Because you think about, well, who's a team that we can trade Quentin Grimes to where he has the opportunity – not only to play in the role that he wants, that he believes he's suited for, but also to make that money next year that he wants. And you think, well, I don't know, maybe the Sacramento Kings, for instance, right?
Yeah.
How many players do you know that are trying to go to Sacramento, right? So that's part of the factor. And I'm not just trying to dog the Kings. Like there's a lot of different examples that you can give for that. The Utah Jazz are another example. The Washington Wizards are another example. Like these are the teams that would have the opportunity theoretically, that would have the funds to potentially pay him. But is Quentin necessarily going to want to go there instead of playing for a competitive team in Philadelphia? Or is he going to try and force a sign and trade this offseason for a team like, say, Miami, for instance, or some more luxurious location based on not only pedigree of team but also location? So I think it was just there's too many factors working against you to try and move Grimes. I don't doubt that it ever entered the thought of Daryl Morey and the rest of the front office members. There's just too many complications. It's far simpler to move Jared McCain in that situation, and that doesn't mean it's right. It just means it was easier.
Yeah, I do think they have a chance to re-sign him. I don't think he's been playing at such a level that he's going to get some massive contract from a cap space team that would, prevent Philly from having a chance. But I'm fairly confident, if I had to guess, that Jared McCain will have a better next 5 years of his career than Quentin Grimes. I think his brain. He just thinks the game at a much higher level. The shooting difference is real. I think Grimes is a very good shooter. I think Jared just has a level of touch and feel that is I don't know, like I said, special. And the defensive concerns I understand. Obviously, this season has been tough with all the injuries and whatnot, but it just feels short-sighted to me, like a move that's obviously going to blow up in our face. We've seen Isaiah Joe go to OKC after we cut him for nothing and just take off. Could be a very similar situation. At least we got something back this time, and Daryl Morey is very good in the draft. I'm sure we can get a solid player at 26, but I think the odds of that player being as good as Jared McCain, maybe not so high. We'll see. We can't know this soon, how the board's going to fall, but I do think it's going to be a tough sell to fans, really an impossible one, probably a tough sell in the locker room. I'm interested to hear Joel's next comments at the post-game scrum. It just feels like a downer when things are pretty much on the up and up. McCain was playing better. We're winning games. Vibes are pretty high this past week, and this just kind of tanks them for no apparent reason other than to duck the tax and maybe create some future trade flexibility. I mean, they let the KJ Martin trade exception that they created last year just pass unused. They created all this flexibility in theory for another move and just didn't execute it now. If they re-sign Grimes, whatever, that's great, but I think this is a pretty tough look for Daryl.
Yeah, one thing I just want to bring up to Lucas's point before we move on from McCain, I just want to make sure that this is said. You referenced a number of guards the Sixers have let go, and almost as potential avenues of what can happen next, right? Carter Williams and Landry Shamet, and then I think a lot of Sixers fans have it in their head that this is guaranteed to be the next Jalen Brunson, the next Tyrese Halliburton, and I understand where they're coming from, but I want to explain why this is different than those particular situations. When you look at a team like Dallas, like Sacramento, when they had Brunson and Halliburton respectively, they had the opportunity to allow those players to grow into what they eventually became, especially Sacramento, right? Sacramento, Halliburton did not become Halliburton because to a degree he did, because he found a much better head coach in Indiana, but he had the opportunity to turn into a star in Sacramento, right? They just simply made that decision, choosing between two of their guards, thinking they picked what was the safer option. Jared McCain does not have that ability in Philadelphia. Did not have that ability in Philadelphia. All right, again, we get back to the scheme. He was not going to have the opportunity to develop into the star that Sixers fans and many others would agree he has the potential to. He just was not going to get that opportunity behind Tyrese Maxey. He was not going to get that opportunity behind VJ Edgecombe. He could have been a heck of a sixth man in Philadelphia, but he was never going to unlock that Brunson, Halliburton level potential in Philly. And I think
that's fair.
In Oklahoma City, he's still not going to have that opportunity. So I think that's what's going to keep this from seeming as historically bad as either of those trades. I think he can be a very helpful player in Oklahoma City, but they thrive on a lot of two-way players, guys like Hassan Wallace, SGA, obviously Jalen Williams. So I think there will be a role for Jared McCain there, and I think offensively they're going to be able to do a lot more with him than Philadelphia was able to, but I don't necessarily think that he's going to go to OKC and become a 7-time All-Star or something like that. Perhaps he latches on to another team after OKC and he reaches that potential, but this is not the exact same as a Halliburton, as a Brunson situation. And that's not, again, it's not meant to make Sixers fans feel better. It's just meant to be more so of tempering your expectations of what's to come.
But you know what stings? You know what stings though about it all, and you make a great point, Zach. But what stings as a Sixers fan is we saw the potential. We seen it. We seen it last year, and just to let that go, basically for peanuts as of right now. You never know what the draft pick could turn out to, but for peanuts, it hurts a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's fair. Well, let's.
Like Zach said, I still think he could have become a very good and beneficial player here, even if he didn't
I agree.
blossom into Jalen Brunson. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I will acknowledge. I think a lot of this is emotional. I think Sixers fans just really liked the guy, and it's just tough to not have him on the team in that sense. Forget the basketball side of things, but it is good for my personal brand as someone who's been like banging the OKC drum for 5 years now or whatever.
Really, you just gotta turn the knife, huh? Just turn the knife.
I was really concerned about what we were going to do between the end of the season and free agency without a draft pick. So, in that sense, it gives us something to talk about. But
that's fair. Let's go to the Eric Gordon real quick.
Sure. What do you have to say?
First off, I think losing him in the locker room, especially for VJ, is kind of underrated there as a teammate from Team Bahamas and a veteran there. Just to, VJ sees him as a mentor. Hopefully that doesn't do too much damage.
I think VJ has the right mental makeup. I think he'll be okay.
That's fair. But my other question is, because I've seen different reports, did we just send a second round pick with him, or did we do a second round pick swap? I thought it was a second round pick swap.
To my understanding, it was a 2032 second round pick swap.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought. Okay, cool. Right. Patrick Baldwin, right?
Yeah,
I thought
I signed a 10-day contract.
I thought I saw somebody say it was Charles Bassey, not Patrick Baldwin, and then it got changed.
It's actually both. Baldwin. So they signed Charles Bassey to a second 10-day contract, and then they also brought on Patrick Baldwin to, because they have the extra roster spot available, they now have Patrick Baldwin on a separate 10-day contract. And the reason that they do that is because now they're back at the 15 after signing Barlow, Bassey to the second 10-day, and then also Patrick Baldwin to his 10-day, that you have 2 days, two-way contract days available again. Now, there's none available for Jabari Walker. He's used up all of his. But they are available for Marjon Beauchamp, who's actually active for tonight's game against the Lakers.
Okay, so my question is, why didn't they just sign Walker and sign Patrick Baldwin instead of Walker?
So you can't go from a 2-way to a 10-day. Right, so as far as
I know that. I'm just
I'm explaining for everyone listening, not just people on the show. So for those who don't know, you can't put him on a 10-day. So that's why that's ruled out. When it comes to converting, first and foremost, the priority is Barlow, and there's certain things that you do have to do in terms of honoring relationships with agents and Philadelphia. I'll say this: they're a front office that really has to make sure that they take advantage of those kind of opportunities for reputational reasons. So when you look at a guy like Barlow, he's the one who you want to make sure that you're converting to that deal, because this isn't about the team option for next year. They're not going to accept that team option in all likelihood. They're more likely going to decline it and work on a longer-term multi-year deal this offseason with Dominic Barlow, just like they did with Justin Edwards. So you want to go ahead and you want to value Dominic Barlow in that way, because you don't know necessarily what's going to happen on the buyout market. Now, Philadelphia does have interest in converting Jabari Walker from a 2-way to a standard deal. However, if an exciting name comes along, you don't want to eliminate that optionality to be able to then sign that player, right? Dominic Barlow, they know they wanted regardless. Jabari Walker, they like, but they could be convinced to go in another direction should the right player become available.
I get that, but you still had another spot besides. Even if you signed Walker, you still had one more spot. But I get it. You want to have as much optionality as possible. Okay.
Gotta save money, guys. All right. Are we ready to talk about all the other ridiculous things that went down around the league?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna hit.
It was entertaining.
All right. Let's just give our quick thoughts here for some of the bigger moves. We'll start with our old friend James Harden, who was dealt to the Cleveland Cavaliers in exchange for Darius Garland and a second-round pick. Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis are also going to Cleveland from a separate deal that we sort of talked about on the last episode. Harden, guys, I'll go to you first again, Maurice. What are your thoughts on him, sort of soft forcing his way out of another team, even though I don't think he wants us to discuss it in that frame, and how do you think he fits in Cleveland?
First of all, it was a viral clip of an announcer kind of chopping down Harden. You saw that, right, Chris? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but he really chopped him down.
He was. It was the Mavericks announcer, and it was back when he was forcing his way out of Brooklyn, I think.
Yeah, and it's only gotten worse since. Don't get me wrong, James Harden's a future Hall of Famer. It's a win now move for Cleveland. The pairing of him and Mitchell, I don't know. There's only one basketball. So we'll see how that works out. But it's a win now move for Cleveland. I mean, at least some team in the Eastern Conference is going for a win now move. Between them and we'll talk about the Celtics, I mean, they're still in. And, you know, that could be a very dynamic backcourt. I need to see it play out. But James Harden, if you could say you could say a lot of things about James Harden. One thing you could say about James Harden is he at least tries to fit into whatever offense he's in. He tries. Whether that's being the ball handler, being the point guard, facilitator, or just being the shooter. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that right now. I need to see it play out.
Yeah, Zach, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, first and foremost, to Maurice's point, I think that Harden does kind of play that chameleon role for a time, right? So when it comes to what is his fit going to look like in Cleveland, everything like that, I think he's actually going to fit rather seamlessly, at least for the rest of this season. How long that relationship lasts, I think, is a completely different conversation. But from my understanding, people who I've talked to around the league, Cleveland has been looking for some time for an opportunity to upgrade from Darius Garland. And they had that opportunity at the trade deadline. They feel that they've made an upgrade. I feel that they've made an upgrade in the short term at the very least. And this is something that Donovan Mitchell was very much a part of these conversations, it seems. So this is this was not a spur of the moment, oh, James Harden is available, let's just throw an offer out there and see if it sticks. This was something that was heavily premeditated by Cleveland. They knew that their foursome was not longed for contention. And so they took the opportunity to upgrade at point guard. And I think it was the right move in the short term. Now, again, we'll see what playoff Harden looks like. We'll see what Harden looks like if he doesn't get the extension that he wants, all of those finer details. For now, I think Cleveland made the right move. And I think it's I suppose a little bit of trouble for Philadelphia in the East, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I tend to agree with you guys. I think that I think it is a good move. I think it is an upgrade. Garland, and this is no shade at Garland. I think Garland fits best as a primary ball handler. He wasn't that in Cleveland once Donovan got there. I think Garland can be a 10 assist type guy, honestly, if he went healthy. I think it's a trade that makes sense for both sides, honestly. I don't hate it for either side. And we'll see what happens long term. But I mean, this wasn't made in long term. This was to make sure that Donovan Mitchell doesn't not re-sign with the Cavaliers, because there was rumblings before this trade that he wasn't happy there if they didn't make another deep playoff run. And so I think this was the right move there. And honestly, underrated was the Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis aspect of this. That gives them a real 1-2 punch defensively on the perimeter that they were kind of lacking. I mean, no shade on Lonzo Ball, but he was starting to look like he's past his prime already, which is crazy. But 10 years in the league 11 years in the league will do that. 10 years in the league will do that to you. So yeah.
I agree with pretty much everyone's points here. I have not sold my James Harden stock. I've been very high on him forever at this point. I think he is still very, very good. I did a piece where I ranked all the players who got moved at the deadline. He was number one. I still think he's an incredibly impactful offensive player. To your point, Zach and Maurice, I do think he will have no problem deferring to Donovan Mitchell. I don't think there's going to be a lot of headbutting there as far as who controls the ball. He did that very well with Joel in Philadelphia. He was able to kind of take on that pass-first role. He's a great facilitator. He is taking more off-ball, spot-up threes than he has in the past. I think he's evolving in the ways that he has to contend. Obviously, the defense is what it is, but offensively, very good player. I think this makes Cleveland a good bit better. and the East is pretty wide open. So I think you could say Cleveland's right up there with the favorites at this point to maybe come out of the conference if this goes well. So, yeah, and I agree with you too, Lucas. I think this was definitely the right move for the Clippers too. I mean, Garland is 10 years younger. You can lock him up for a while. They've been needing to get younger in LA for a hot minute now. So I think this was a good trade for both sides. Obviously, this is a very short-term move for Cleveland, and if they get eliminated in the first round again or whatever, we'll have some tough conversations, and maybe it won't feel like such a great move. But for now, I think it makes sense. The strangest trade of the day probably was Anthony Davis to the Washington Wizards, and a very a lot of different players moving about in that trade. 2 first-round picks going to Dallas, neither of them particularly appealing. This was another very cheap star addition for the Wizards after they gave up no picks to get Trae Young about a month ago. So the reporting is that they're going to extend both Davis and Young, that they view this as like kind of their core moving forward. How did you feel about this move, Maurice?
See, the thing is, it's Anthony Davis. He's gotten the moniker of street clothes for a reason. If you can get Anthony Davis healthy for a season, and I know we've said a lot about Joel Embiid, if you can get him healthy for a majority of a season with Trae Young, it can work. It looks good on paper. It's a nice pairing. But Trae Young, I've never been the biggest fan of Trae Young, to be completely honest. I don't see him as a real winner. That's just my honest opinion about him. But he's a good basketball player, don't get me wrong. But him and Anthony Davis combined, Sarr, they got some pieces down there. Trey Johnson, they got some pieces. They have a nice young core if everything comes together. So I don't mind the trade. And they're getting him for less than $1. So you got to salute the general manager there for pulling off this trade, getting a good asset back, trying to change that culture down there.
Yeah, I think when you look at the totality of what Washington was able to do, what is the end game here? Is the end game to contend? I don't think initially. I don't think that's the first step. I think this is a great opportunity to put butts in seats. I think this is a great opportunity to get a competitive team, to give some of your younger up-and-coming players some postseason experience. And the fact that they were able to get Trae Young and Anthony Davis for less than $350, that's not bad. I mean, honestly, I think almost any team would take that, if we're being honest. Yeah. So now you have this opportunity. I kind of like if everybody's healthy, which is obviously the big if, the idea of a front court of Anthony Davis and Alex Sarr is interesting. And when you have a lob threat like Trae Young, a distributor lob threat like Trae Young, when you have so many different exciting core concepts of basketball, right? You have high flyers. You have deep shot makers in Trae Johnson and Trae Young. You have guys who can shot block at an elite level in Anthony Davis and Alex Sarr. So I think they're putting together a fun team. Are they going to win a chip? I'm not betting on that, but I think this is going to be a massively improved product touching the floor for Washington, which I think is a fantastic business decision.
Yeah, look, the nice thing is, if neither one of these guys work out, you still have you didn't trade any of your own picks. You didn't give up. AJ Johnson is cool, but he's not a homegrown product. He came over from the Milwaukee deal. Look, if you told me that you could turn Kyle Kuzma and Bradley Beal into Anthony Davis and Trae Young, I think everybody would say that's a win, right? And that's basically kind of what happened here to an extent, right? And look, Dallas gets to reset their books with, taking all that extra cap off. Good for Dallas, right? They get to start rebuilding around Cooper Flagg a little bit more. They have 2 picks in this draft now. That's important. And, granted, one of them's not that great, but that's okay. They also got 3 picks, second-round picks, too. One of them is interesting. I think it could be the Indiana pick or something. No, I think this is a good move because you can move. If this doesn't work, you can move off of them. Maybe you don't re-sign them. Or maybe you don't extend him, or maybe you can trade and get off of him, and it's not like no love lost. And like Alex Sar to get a mentor like Anthony Davis, that's a win. Trae Young could rub off on Bub Carrington. That could be like the positives of Trae Young, you would hope. Bub Carrington's already bigger than Trae Young, so one could hope, right? And Trae Young's much younger too. He could fit in the core. He's only 28, so like it's not like a no for sure. He's not going to be a part of the future. He could be. Anthony Davis is a short-term rental. I would not be paying Anthony Davis more than 20 to 25 million moving forward because of the health issues and his age.
Really, 25?
Maybe even lower. He's not healthy.
He's looking for a max contract.
I don't think he's going to get like a full max or anything.
He's not going to get a full max. Maybe 30, maybe 35, but I would not pay him more than 25 personally. But that's just me.
Yeah, I think the issue with going fourth in this rotation is that all my points get made before me. But I agree with everyone. Yeah, I think a lot of people like had a knee-jerk reaction to like why are the Wizards trading for a mid-30s aging like hurt all the time superstar, but like they really did not give up much of anything really truly valuable in this deal, nothing that they couldn't afford to kind of risk. Same with Trae Young. It was Corey Kispert and CJ McCollum. They turned Jordan Poole into CJ McCollum into Trae Young, which is just a straight lineup as far as I'm concerned, even with all the issues one might have with Trae Young as a player. Anthony Davis, injury stuff is real, but a very proven leader, winner, guy who has some valuable experience in that locker room. I think this is like a nice bridge that they've built to where hopefully you can get into the bottom of the playoff race with these guys in the next couple of years. And then by the time these next deals hypothetically kind of run out on Anthony Davis and Trae Young, your Keyshawn Georges, your Alex Sars, your Trey Johnsons are kind of ready to take over. Maybe you still get Darren Peterson or Cam Boozer or Dybonsa, whoever at the top of this draft, which would be super exciting. You can kind of bridge the gap between this next competitive team and what you are right now. And for like the price they paid, I think it's pretty ingenious, honestly. Could it just kind of fall apart and both guys are hurt all the time and they don't really do anything? Sure. But I think it is a reasonable risk for a team that can still, again, get a really high-level prospect at the top of this draft to kind of keep this thing propelling forward. And then, next year they can start winning some basketball games. The East, again, is not the strongest, so there's always a outside chance that they could do something fun. So I don't mind it at all. Let's talk about Jaren Jackson to Utah. 8-player deal. 3 first-round picks going back to the Memphis Grizzlies. Utah still has a lot of future first-round picks under their control, a lot of flexibility. They paired Jackson with Markkanen and Walker Kessler in the front court. Keontae George, Ace Bailey, those guys on the wing in the back court, that kind of deal. What were your thoughts on this move, Maurice?
Well, it's crazy how the Utah Jazz went from sellers to buyers real quick. And then we were talking about, hey, let's get Laurie here a year or two ago. And shout out Ben. He's been beating that drum for a long time. And it would have worked. Laurie here would have worked. And now they have a really nice young core. I like it's a big front court, but I like the trade. I mean, that kind of kickstarted the whole superstar trade deadline thing with Jaren Jackson moving. But I like the pairing. The question is what does the Utah Jazz have to lose? They have nothing to lose here with the trade. That's the reason why I really love it for them.
Well, they do, but I'll wait until my turn to explain that.
Okay. Zach?
Well, I just thought it was interesting that you got to kind of see the duality of NBA teams when you see the approach of the Utah Jazz, who effectively have employed the Monstars, and then you look at the Chicago Bulls, who have a 6 foot and under height requirement on their team. So it's really interesting to see how these two different teams are building. But Jaren Jackson Jr., whatever potential inflated home block numbers aside, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is a heck of a player. I think that he's somebody who's really going to improve Utah. Putting him alongside Laurie. Laurie's such an interesting piece because he really can play that 3 or the 4 offensively, and defensively he can really play neither. So why not just add Jaren Jackson Jr.? Why not put Walker Kessler? And you're setting yourself up for potential defensive success, where now you're at least putting Laurie, who's huge, on a much smaller defender. Offensively, he's always going to have that advantage. You have guys like Keontae George is obviously going to be huge for the Utah Jazz moving forward. Isaiah Collier has been insane for this team as well. There's a lot of great young talent on this team. Ace Bailey's yet to reach that level, but other than that, there's a lot of great young talent on this team. And who knows what Ace Bailey turns into? Maybe he can be that jumbo-sized shooting guard moving forward for this team, and if he can consistently knock down those shots from deep, that is a potentially lethal young lineup. I mean, the opportunity for Utah for the cost that they spent, which again was not much. Yeah, this is a no-brainer move. I think a lot of teams are kicking themselves that they did not try a little bit harder to get Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah, so anyone who sold their Isaiah Collier stock, the joke's on you. That's all I'll say.
Oh, I knew you were going to bring that up. Look, first off, I saw something today that somebody reported that the Golden State Warriors were actually in serious talks for Jaren Jackson Jr., but then they heard Giannis and hung up the phone, which is crazy. They could have used
Good job,
Jaren
Golden
Jackson.
State.
Good job. But no, this is arguably, I'll say this, I think this was the most impactful trade deadline move. I honestly do. From changing a team from being a, sub 500 team to arguably being a, assuming that Walker is healthy next year, to a really dangerous team in the West. I could argue. And I think that they're a real problem. Keontae George, let's just say Ace Bailey becomes that guy. You're telling me you only have one guy below, and Keontae was what, like 6'4", 6'5"? You only have one guy below 6'8" now? Because what is Ace
kind of
Bailey?
like Rockets light?
Rockets, like, I don't even say it would be light. They're taller, honestly. Love the move, honestly. It's a win now move. It kind of sucks that Memphis couldn't get off a job, but it happens, I guess. Nobody really wanted to, go for him, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. I think this was the most impactful move, and now your front court is no shorter than 6'10". That's crazy.
Yeah, I again agree with most points that were made. I've seen some hand-wringing over like Jaren Jackson's contract, which is pretty substantial, but it is, I think, a situation where Utah is just not going to get free agents of that caliber ever to go sign in Utah willingly. So I think that's part of the calculus. And like defense has been a huge issue for them. I think their offense is actually pretty good as is. Jackson will make that better, but he helps a lot on defense. They'll get Kessler back next year. That is the chance to be one of the best, if not the best, defensive front court in the NBA by a pretty comfortable margin. And like Markkanen and Jackson are both crazy good shooters at 6'10 plus. Like there's a lot of really fun wrinkles here on both sides. I think Utah, Will Hardy, I believe in very much as like an excellent head coach who just has not had a team that is built to win yet. I think Utah could take a pretty substantial leap next year if they're all healthy. So I'm really interested to see how that one plays out as well. Let's run through Ivica Zubac going to the Indiana Pacers. Pretty substantial package with multiple picks going to the Clippers, including Benedict Mathurin as well. Notably, Indiana's pick this year is now top 4 protected. So if they fall to 5, as they did in my mock draft that I'm writing right now, that pick goes to the Clippers. This is a very good draft.
Isn't it also 10 through 30 protected too? So basically, if it's
in like the 5 to 10 window or whatever, 5 to 9,
interesting,
it goes to the Clippers.
That's a weird protection. I don't think I've ever seen a protection like that before.
This is a very good draft class. I will say, if you hand the Clippers the 5th overall pick and Mathurin and multiple future picks for Zubac, that trade could maybe start to look a lot worse. So I think Indiana needs to really batten down the hatches and tank their way as hard as possible the rest of the way. But what were your thoughts on this one, Maurice?
Tank on, baby. Tank on. Listen, I mean, this is a move for next season for them. I love the trade for the Clippers. I think Mathurin is a player that can really develop with the Clippers if the Clippers decide that, hey, we're going to reload, maybe rebuild, but they don't want to rebuild. Sixers, we had one of their picks, so we would rather them just tank and blow it up. But as long as they have Kawhi, they're not going to do that. But I like Mathurin. The picks is weird. That's weird. I knew it was top 4, but I didn't know it was like 5 to 30. That was weird. But I actually like the trade for both sides. If Indiana gets Halliburton back, Zubac kind of feels sort of, but not a good shooter as Miles Turner. So we're going to see how that works out. But this is a trade for next season for them. Hopefully they have the foresight to build their roster next season when Halliburton comes back and kind of let them reload and see if they can have the same success they had last season.
Yeah, honestly, I know, Lucas, you said that the JJJ trade was probably the most impactful in your eyes, and I can understand that completely. I think this is the biggest trade at the deadline when you think about a team that really next year is going to come back at an insane level. There's going to be a little bit of, ramping up for Tyrese Halliburton, but when you look at the defender that Zubac is, now I get it, Miles Turner, sexy shot blocker, he can shoot as well, like that's great. And there's no disrespect to Miles Turner. I think he's a quality NBA player. Vicha Zubac is one of the best defensive centers in the entire league. So you have him anchoring your defense now alongside Pascal Siakam, who made the All-Star on the worst team in the league. Like it is impressive. Like you can say whether that should have ruled him out of that or not. Like he's having a good season. I think that's clear and evident. So you get him back into his role working alongside Tyrese Halliburton. Benedict Mathurin is a young, talented player that I don't think the Pacers are going to miss terribly. I think it's a good opportunity for Cleveland to try and kind of take advantage of a player who's not really in the right situation and see what they can turn him into. And there's clearly talent in him. Like especially offensively, there's clearly talent in Benedict Mathurin. But I like the way that Indiana is really forming their team. And when you look at, Chris, you talked about how really stacked this draft is. It is on like a few different levels, right? So there's a depth of talent, just general talent in this draft, right? And then on top of that, there's like another layer of quality starters that are to be had in this draft. Well, then there's that top 4, right? And when I say top 4, it's really the top 3, but number 4 is also in a class of his own, right? So we look at the opportunity for Indiana to land one of those top 4 picks. If they're able to come out of this with not conveying their pick this year, and then said, I believe it's the 2031 Indiana unprotected first-round pick that would go to LA in that case. Yeah, it
would be. Yeah.
That is absolutely a win for the Pacers. If they could come out of this theoretically with obviously Halliburton, obviously Siakam, adding Zubac, and then, potentially like a Peterson type or, what have you. I don't think necessarily just any fit is perfect when you look at this draft class, but any one of them is an extreme talent.
All of them would help a lot, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I kind of feel like if they sit at 4 and they land Caleb Wilson, I think that might be the best situation for them to fall into, even though it's not one of the top 3 picks. So there's a lot of opportunity to be had for Indiana after this trade. And Zubac is one of the most underappreciated players in the entire league. I think he's going to make a tremendous difference for them next year.
Look, I'm not going to go into the Zubac thing. You guys have already explained that well enough. Okay, Zubac is probably one of like 2 or 3 centers that can guard Joel Embiid or Jokic by himself. Okay, there's not many centers that can do that by himself. He is one of them. Great pickup. I'm not worried about the spacing. Rick Carlisle can figure that out. They don't need a spacer at the 5 to make this work for Indiana.
I will say there's like some Tyson Chandler 2011 vibes.
Yeah, right. But I want to talk about this from the Clippers' perspective. So the Clippers flipped James Harden and Zubac for arguably their backcourt of the future, and Garland and Mathurin, who I believe were in the same class, right? They were both drafted the same year or close to it. I think so.
I don't remember off the top.
They're roughly the same age. And on the inverse, if the Clippers get that pick, let's say it's 5th, right? Let's say it's 6th, right? You get a 3rd cornerstone for the future, you don't need to rebuild. You've already done the rebuild. You got 2 young guards. You have a top 10 pick. And, you could flip Kawhi this summer if you want to. So, I think you've already done your rebuild. And I do like that young athletic center that they have in the G League.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I think the Clippers really need this pick to convey.
They do. If they don't, then it's going to be a struggle. But if they do, then it's a masterclass.
They still get a lot back, and I think this is a good time to sell high on Zubac. So again, I think this was probably a pretty smart move for both teams. If LA can squeeze into 5 or 6 there, get a Caleb Wilson, Mikal Brown kind of player, I think they will be very, very happy with things. So yeah, Zubac is awesome. I think it's worth just stating how wide the gap is between Turner's defense last year and Zubac's. Turner is a very good shot blocker. He's been a bit on the decline defensively these past couple of years. I think Zubac, like you said, Zach, is maybe one of the 5 best defenders in the league at this point. I would have voted him Defensive Player of the Year last year. So I think this is a really awesome move for the Pacers. We can kind of run through these last few a little bit quicker just because they aren't quite as substantial. But Kristaps Porzingis going to Golden State on an expiring contract. Buddy Hield and Jonathan Kuminga are going to Atlanta, so the Kuminga saga has finally ended. I think we're all probably relieved on that front.
Has it? Because he's not going to be a starter in Atlanta, so it hasn't really ended.
I heard a report that he's not happy being traded to Atlanta.
I bet he's not.
Of everything that's happened in Golden State, did you think they was going to do him a solid and trade him somewhere he wanted to go?
No.
They were going to make the best move for their franchise.
Yeah.
After the Jimmy Butler injury, I think this is just a desperate move. Well, they had to move Kuminga, but it was pretty much a desperate trade. I mean, they got Porzingis. Do I think Porzingis moves the needle for Golden State in the playoffs? No.
Yeah, that's fair.
Zach?
Any thoughts?
Yeah, quite a few on this one. But I'll keep it simple.
Okay.
I think that the Atlanta Hawks are attempting to put together an interesting squad, and they see the potential of a guy like Kuminga, and they embrace the versatility of a guy like Jalen Johnson. But ultimately, despite the potential that a lot of people still choose to see in Kuminga, especially that Kuminga season himself, I think that we're going to be looking at the combination of Buddy Hield and Jock Landale, possibly more meaningful contributors over the totality of their Hawks career. I just don't really see... first of all, I don't see Kuminga embracing Atlanta as a new landing spot. It's clearly was not among the places that he expected to go. I don't know where he got this sense that he could make this list of demands, but it was not among them as far as his landing spots. So Kuminga is going to approach this in... Maybe he needs time to digest. I don't know. But we'll see what they look like on the court together. I have faith that guys like Nickeil Walker-Alexander, guys like Dyson Daniels, Onyeka Okongwu, Jalen Johnson, they can kind of play with anybody. And I think that's kind of the benefit, the option that this has to work out in Atlanta's favor. I don't like the fit, and I think you can really see how fed up Golden State was with what the return was that they got in exchange for Kuminga by the end of it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, no, I don't think he's going to be long for Atlanta. They could just trade him this offseason, or not. He has a team option, right? So they might just not do that as well. So I don't think he has much value in the league. He kind of reminds me of Michael Beasley. Is he talented? Yes, but will it ever translate onto the NBA court? Who knows, right?
Michael Beasley had a lot more talent.
I don't disagree.
Well, Michael Beasley had more talent in his pinky finger than 98% of the league. It's just there were a lot of other issues at hand was the problem.
That's fair. From the Golden State Warriors side of it, you're giving up two guys who weren't really in your rotation for, like, if Porzingis can somehow get healthy again, like, he actually makes a lot of sense for this team. Plus, you get the West Coast Celtics with him and now Horford, so, why not? I don't see it as a lose for the Warriors to do this trade.
No, I think it was smart for Golden State. Worst case, they're getting $30 million off the books. For Atlanta, it's like they're not going to contend this year. That's just not realistic. There's some upside with Kuminga. Like, there's a world in which he ends up starting over Richache and being a good player. There is talent there. Like, it could work out. I don't expect it will. I'm pretty down on him, like everyone else here, it seems. But they got something for Porzingis' his expiring contract. Not the most exciting return, but I understand their logic. I think that's a good front office. Nikola Vucevic, guys, is going to Boston. Traded for Anthony Simons. A couple second-round picks were swapped. How are we feeling about this?
As a Sixers fan, I was annoyed because this is a sign that says, "Hey, we're not giving up on this season. If we can get Jason Tatum back, if you can get a 75% Jason Tatum, Boston can contend in the Eastern Conference."
Don't say it. I don't want to hear
it. It's true. I think
they can contend without him at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you think they're a top 4 team without Tatum?
Yeah. They've been playing like it, and I do think
Vooch
is better than their current center options. So,
yeah.
Missoula's a psycho, so I'm sure they'll be fine, unfortunately.
He's like a young Pop. If Pop was like 35 when he came into the league, he's like Pop.
Yeah, Vooch is also underrated as a psycho. I think people don't really realize that about him personally, but he was not happy in Chicago for all the right reasons. So it will be interesting to see how he adjusts in Boston. I agree overall. I think that they improved at center compared to their other options. At the same time, I think this was a great trade for the Philadelphia 76ers and for Joel Embiid. As I said publicly, you look at, and a lot of people try to call me out on it and say, well, Embiid operates below average against Vooch historically. I'm like, well, Vooch has been playing longer than Embiid has. So a lot of those years you're comparing Embiid's earliest years, which really drastically bring down those values. But when you look over the last 10 matchups between these two players, or if you want to go the entire duration of his time in Chicago, Joel Embiid has steadily won that matchup consistently, right? And does he rise up to the occasion like he does against Jokic, where he's more motivated than anything, against Karl Anthony Towns, stuff like that we've seen historically? No, I don't think he views Vucevic as that same level of threat. But the guy consistently wins that matchup. And I'll be honest, Gita is a heck of a defender. And those are the kind of guys that I think bother Joel a lot more than Nikola Vucevic. So when you look at the different possibilities in terms of who can be defending him, we've even seen Luke Cornett give Embiid fits at times. Like, it's not the Nikola Vucevic's who give Joel Embiid problems offensively, or when he's on offense, I should say. So defensive fits, but yeah, I think this is matchup wise great for Philadelphia, especially since Anthony Simons is a young elite shooter. I don't think he's a star. I don't think that he's ever going to be a Jamal Murray type or that type of player. But to lose a sharpshooting guard, that tends to be the weakness of Philadelphia's defense, and to gain a center who Joel has succeeded against offensively in the past, I think that's pretty good for Philadelphia, if I'm being honest. But I absolutely understand how this is a positive deal for Boston in a vacuum as well. I don't think they're making deals thinking about, well, what do we have to do about matching up with Philadelphia?
All fair points. I do want to say one thing, and this is all that I'm going to say. Hot take, I think Vooch comes off the bench. I don't think he starts. You're muted, Chris.
He's going to start.
I don't think so. I think that you want to bring Vooch off the bench.
Simple.
I think you bring.
That's not what they're going to do, though.
I think Keita's defensive rebounding is actually really important.
Yeah, but
to
he's
their
a
He's
he's a
a
role
great
player.
rebounder.
He's a
He's not a
rebounder.
good
Not the
defender.
issue.
The defense is, and like you said, he's a Missoula's a maniac, and I could see him just wanting to play the best defensive center available. So that would be K-Dub.
Maybe. I doubt it. But we'll see. I mean, it's a valid point. There's like definitely an argument there. I don't think it starts that way. Maybe it gets to that point if Vooch doesn't pan out the way they hope. But I do think it was generally a smart move. They clearly weren't going to extend Anthony Simons or anything like that. They've needed a center. The offense from that front court is pretty lacking. So Vooch helps on that front. All right, guys. Jose Alvarado to the Knicks. A smaller move, but one that impacts us a little bit, given our proximity. Maurice, what do you have any thoughts on this?
Alvarado just seems like a New York Knicks type player, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
He does.
That's it.
He might give us some fits if we match up against them in the playoffs. But additional role player, add some depth to their bench. At least they're adding depth. We're not. But besides that, cool move.
I'll be honest. I was not aware that we could add players at positions of need that would benefit our team. I did not know that was in the rules for this trade deadline. But
who knew?
Apparently, the New York Knicks were aware of this. I think Jose Alvarado is a home run fit. I think he's going to be embraced by the fan base instantly. I think he solves an absolute need on both ends, really, for New York, both as a facilitator and he's just a defensive pest. He's one of the last guys that you want to meet up with because he's an instigator, he's an aggravator, and he's going to get under your skin at every turn. Now, when you look at how this may impact the Sixers, just real briefly, just to kind of keep it in that context, he's not the normal kind of defender that bothers a guy like Tyrese Maxey. But what I will say is when you look league-wide at how this could benefit the Knicks, this is not – the cost was minor, his salary number is minor. I get that. This is a major addition for the New York Knicks, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Cool move. Yeah.
Deuce McBride is out for the regular season, probably. It seems that way, at least most of it. So they're sort of replacing one really annoying pesty guard with another. If they have both those guys next year, that would just be more annoying. Good for the Knicks. I will say, before I attended the University of Georgia, I had a year where I was going to a lot of Georgia Tech basketball games. Jose Alvarado was the star of that Georgia Tech team. I'm very fond of him. This really hurts me personally, but good for him, I guess, to play on a winning team. I do think it helps the Knicks quite a bit. They're really going to love him at MSG. I'm really annoyed by how much this makes sense. Mm-hmm. Lucas has added Kobe White to our agenda. He's going to Charlotte in a trade that sends Colin Sexton and some other pieces back to Chicago. This is a pretty interesting one. I liked it quite a bit, really, for both sides. Charlotte especially has been red hot of late. Kobe White averaging 18 a game, probably going to come off the bench. Maurice, what were your thoughts on that move?
Yeah, Kobe White is a really underrated player. I think he's averaging like close to 19 and 5. Something like that, at least with Chicago. This is a really good move. And he also got Mike Conley Jr., right?
They're going to waive him.
Oh, they are? Okay. All right.
It seems likely,
Is that confirmed? Yeah. Is that like...
No. It's been widely
I thought I saw it already happened.
Did it happen? I did.
Maybe.
Okay.
It does seem like what happened, but I'm not sure.
Look,
to my understanding, their intention... Yes, so Mike Conley was waived by the Hornets earlier today. And it seems that there is a desire, well, and we can talk about this more a little bit later. I know we're talking about buyout guys, but Minnesota is definitely a top target for him to potentially go back to.
Yeah,
that's
what I've
sense.
heard too. Yeah,
it makes sense.
You basically upgrade Sexton, who's solid. Let's be clear. I don't hate Sexton as a six man, but Kobe White is bigger, stronger, better. He's just better all around. Not saying that Sexton's bad, but Kobe White, if you had a choice, you would want him to be your sixth man. They also traded Mason Plumlee for something, but I don't remember what I care about.
Plumlee went to OKC, I believe. Right? Yeah. Zach, what were your thoughts?
Plumlee to OKC to be waived, and that's, we'll see what happens with Plum long term there. But I think I love what Charlotte has been doing as of late, and in regards to everything. The drafting of Concanapple was obviously huge for them. He's been a picture perfect fit. Now you're bringing in, I think Colin Sexton was a good fit. I think Kobe White is a great fit. And I think that's the difference that you're really going to see after this trade deadline. So I'm very excited for the moves that the Hornets have moving forward. They're one of the hottest teams in the league. They just beat the Rockets tonight, helping out the Sixers a little bit in terms of that draft position.
They spanked us.
Yeah, this is an exciting young team who is on the up and up. And now you add a player of Kobe White's ability. Somebody who I think is a little bit sharper as a backup combo guard than Colin Sexton, and yeah, I think there's a lot to like out of this deal specifically for Charlotte moving forward.
Yeah,
all right,
I agree. I will just say Colin Sexton is like kind of a miracle, an underrated scorer. He's really talented. He just doesn't do much of anything else. He does try really hard and brings a very positive energy, and I think Chicago fans will like him quite a bit. But I agree that this is a good move for Charlotte. We are going really long. We've mentioned that Giannis and Ja both did not move. I'll go to you first, Maurice. Any quick thoughts on those two? I'm feeling like these will both be resolved in the offseason. Seems that way?
Yeah.
I mean, for Ja, the breakup is coming. It just didn't come now. It'll come down the road during the summertime when all breakups are a little easier. So that will come. Hopefully they get back the value that they think they could get back for Ja. I don't think they'll get back the same value. At this point, he's a diminishing asset. We know what Ja's game is. It's a very kind of a one-dimensional game. It's like Giannis, but at a point guard aspect. So they're going to get back... Hopefully for them, they get back good value for him. But as of right now, we've heard Miami. We've heard Minnesota. We're going to see how that works out in the summertime. But, yeah, good luck to them on that. Giannis, I mean, at the trade deadline, they weren't going to get back the same value. They weren't going to get back great value for Giannis at the trade deadline. More offers will be on the table when salary caps come off the books in the summertime. I'm already hearing Lakers. I'm already hearing Golden State. Who knows? But it definitely will be a sweepstakes. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll get better offers in the summer, as much as none of us want to wait. Zach, did you have any thoughts on these two?
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity for Sacramento to kind of rehab his value a little bit, right? And that's not going to be in terms of speaking about Ja. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be an opportunity for or Memphis, I should say, to rehab his value a little bit. When you look at how they're going to do that, it's not going to be by contending. It's going to be by stat padding, effectively, right? So now that you don't have Jaren Jackson Jr. there's keys are all yours. Ja, score as many points as you want each and every night. Show the league that you can be a 20-point per game scorer. I don't care if the contenders really believe it. I need a team like Sacramento to believe it, so that way they will offer. Which Sacramento is heavily interested in Ja Morant, so that's definitely something to watch over the summer as a potential landing spot for him. I think Miami saw him as an opportunity to buy a star cheap, a supposed star cheap. I think Sacramento sees him as a potential franchise guard for them. So that's going to be something to revisit during the summer. And once they figure out what on earth is happening with DeMar DeRozan and Domantas Sabonis, because those are also two stories that have yet to be fully told. There's going to be a lot of change this offseason around the entire league. So that's just one thing to watch there. As far as Giannis goes, the man who never requested to be traded. I do think he does eventually get moved this offseason. Just looking at, especially this draft, I think there's going to be a lot of players who get moved as teams fall in love with some of these prospects. I expect there to be a lot of moves made around the draft. And I think even the results of the lottery can potentially impact who can go ahead and make a Ja trade here. So we'll see what effectively happens. I don't know that I love Minnesota as a landing spot. I love Jalen McDaniels. I just don't think that that's going to be enough. I think that Milwaukee's really going to be looking for picks more than anything. And so I expect whatever Giannis deal that will eventually come to involve at least 3, if not 4, if not 5 teams.
Yeah, if he goes to the Lakers, I'll just say this. I think we should organize a boycott of some kind.
Yeah.
Lucas, any thoughts from you?
Yeah. Ja is probably going to end up in Sacramento. I feel like that's going to happen. Giannis, I don't know.
Best of luck, Sacramento fans. We really feel for you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I mean, listen, when reports come out that they love Ja Morant and RJ Barrett, Sacramento fans are uniquely self-aware. So the team's highlight acquisition was DeAndre Hunter. They reportedly love RJ Barrett. They reportedly love Ja Morant. And they opted to trade Keon Ellis without getting a first-round pick. And they're stuck with Domantas Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan, who are solid players, talented players.
I heard they might buy out. Yeah.
I have heard rumblings of it. I believe that Sacramento has come out and confirmed they are not going to be buying him out. But it could ultimately depend on, if DeMar decides to push them, if he hears about an opportunity somewhere. I don't think they're going to want to disgruntle DeMar DeRozan ahead of this offseason.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
To finish my point, I do want to say I don't know where Giannis goes. Don't really care. But I will say, and I know that sounds callous, but I don't care.
You should care.
As long, look.
Philly has another pick to trade.
That's and I'll also say this: Minnesota, I heard that they were trying to get LaMelo at one point, but they could have just gotten Kobe White, but then they decided to wait and get AI Dosunmu. Dosunmu's an underrated pickup for them too.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad alternative for them.
Yeah.
All right, let's go quickly through some potential buyout targets. I want like 1-sentence answers because this pod is really long. We'll go around the horn. Maurice, Lonzo Ball, yay or nay?
Nay.
Okay, Zach?
Yeah, absolute nay for me.
Fair. Lucas?
Can I say maybe?
Sure.
No,
maybe.
Pick a side.
Honestly, that may be damning if you ask me, so go for that maybe all you want.
He's the only one that can actually defend on this list.
He is shooting 30% from the field this year, and I don't know if he's really defending very well.
This has not been his prime defensive year, that is for sure.
Do we want 2 players with degenerate knees on the team?
That's fair.
It is a classic, in theory, this could work situation. Emphasis on in theory.
I'm going to
the
say
idea
nay.
of Lonzo Ball is fantastic. I will say that.
A year ago, this would have been really exciting.
Or a pair of knees ago, this would have been a great potential fit for Philadelphia.
That's fair.
Back in 2016?
Yeah. All right. So I'll say nay.
Yeah, I think I'm with y'all. Chris Middleton, maybe or maybe not a Dallas Maverick. Maurice?
For that minimum, I would say yeah. He can shoot. We need that.
He can't defend.
I mean,
neither could Jerry McCain, and you wanted him to play more. So,
well, he's not Jerry McCain now, is he?
He can shoot though.
I'm not inherently against the idea of Chris Middleton. I don't think it's the avenue Philadelphia is eventually going to go down, but I think they could certainly do worse. I'll just say that.
Nay.
Okay, well, I say yay. I'm open to it. Mike Conley, future Minnesota Timberwolf, it seems, but why not?
Nay. We have Kyle
Just
Lowry.
say it.
Nay.
Just say it, Maurice.
He's
better than Kyle Lowry. Come on.
He's better than Kyle Lowry, but it's still nay.
It is also nay for me.
All right. I
a nay.
wouldn't mind it, honestly, but
I historically love Mike Conley. I've been on Mike Conley since the Memphis Grizzly days. I am a big Mike Conley fan. Mike Conley in the year 2026, I just don't think is of interest to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that's fair. He'd be the fourth guard. He could do worse still. Chris Paul, speaking of old guys, hasn't played in several months now. Got traded to the Raptors. He was not required to report. May or may not play again is the word on the street. Maurice?
Respectfully, future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest point guards ever. Nay.
regardless of what I think, which is nay, it will not happen. I can guarantee you that.
I agree. It will not happen. Chris Paul hates Daryl Morey. It's not happening.
I know, guys. I was just trying to have some fun. I agree, though. Nay is what will happen, and nay is probably the right answer. Probably the most interesting name on this list. Cameron Thomas from the Brooklyn Nets. He was waived. A bit of an unceremonious end to his tenure in Brooklyn. Maurice, what are your thoughts on Cam Thomas?
We need a guard who can shoot, back up. He's buckets. He can. It's the only thing he can do is shoot. Just let him shoot. He'd be fine. I say yay. Put him in the back of the bench. When we need some offense, we go that third quarter where we can't score for 8 minutes. Put Cam Thomas in the game. He might be okay.
Yeah, it's an absolute nay for me. I don't see him being a fit on this roster in any capacity. I think that he will be very popular among some of the bottom feeding teams in the league and potentially some G League teams, but I just don't see him being a scream Sacramento King.
Hot take, I actually kind of like him in Milwaukee more. I can see them talking themselves into Cam Thomas.
In theory, I understand where you're coming from, Lucas. The reason why I disagree is that they are going to do everything they can to not win games. And just as much as Cam Thomas will shoot you out of more games than he will win you, they are not going to take any risk at this point in the season. They are going to avert any risk, and they're going to try and pair Giannis with a draftable star this offseason, or they're going to try and capitalize on whatever draft pick they may land. Because, again, their pick is a swap. It's not going to be bad, considering that both they and the Pelicans are terrible. So there's going to be an opportunity to draft somebody. They're not going to risk winning any more games than they could. And Cam Thomas, his reputation around the league, I don't think it's enough to keep Giannis in Milwaukee.
There seems to be a chance that Giannis comes back and tries to win games, though.
He shouldn't. He shouldn't. And it's a nay for me as well. No way.
Yeah, for Giannis himself, he should not come back. Those calf strains can easily turn into Achilles. KD. You don't want that. Yeah. That's the worst case scenario for the Bucks.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, that would not be good. Yeah, I'm pretty much a nay as well. As much as the idea excites me in the wrong part of my brain. I was a big Cam Thomas believer for as long as I could be. I really wanted it to work.
Me too.
I respect the heck out of his approach, but it really does not function as a winning basketball player, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I do think his lack of self-awareness around his contract negotiations last summer probably hurt his stock a little bit. Which brings us to our last, but not least, option here is Georges Niang, old friend Georges Niang. Maurice.
Yay. Bring back the minivan. Bring him back.
Sure.
I want the minivan back. Why not?
Zach?
Listen, yay. I mean, I don't think it will happen. I love the idea of adding a shooter. I do think, I know for a fact Georges Niang has a lot of respect for Nick Nurse. At the same time, and I say this, Nick Nurse is a lovely person as a human. I think he might slapbox Georges Niang if he were to have to coach him. So I really don't know how that relationship would work out. I don't see Philadelphia doing it. Personally, I would love to see it.
Yeah.
I would love to have Georges Niang back. Now, that could be a player I could see that they don't sign Walker back for Georges Niang. I could see that one. I'm all for Georges Niang coming back. He provides shooting, a little bit of rebounding, and a whole bunch of fun.
Interesting.
Of course, then again, would him and Quentin Grimes get along? Because he's talked some real smack to Quentin Grimes, and he wasn't wrong last season.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
I think it would be fine.
Probably.
George is kind of toxic.
Oh, you guys, we forgot. We forgot one free agent that we could get right now. And, but Georges Niang would never come if he came back. It's Ben Simmons. That's what this 15th roster spot is for. It's Ben Simmons, guys.
And
clearly.
With that said,
okay, yay or nay on Ben Simmons, Maurice?
You can close us out, Chris. No, I don't want Ben.
Okay.
Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons'
Yeah,
NBA career is over with. His career is over.
chaos reigns. Sure, why not?
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna say no on Ben. I'm mixed on George. Yes, why not? Much respect to him. Okay, guys, this was a long but very fun episode. I appreciate you, Maurice and Zach, both of you coming on.
It was fun.
I'll go to you first again, Maurice, for the last time. If you want to tell folks where they can follow you and listen to you on various podcasts, go ahead.
You can follow me and Lucas on 14 Rings of NFC East Podcast, as you can see right here. Philadelphia Eagles, go Birds.
Yeah, Lucas, what team do you talk about on that podcast?
Yeah. What's your team?
I talk about a team that didn't lose the best offensive line coach in the NFL. That's what team I support. Yeah, that's right.
These are the Jags.
Yeah, that Commanders O-line is really showing it.
It was good. It was good this season. Get at me.
Hi, man.
Yeah, ran
Better
by
than the
that
Eagles
owner.
this season.
What's his name?
Okay, you know what? We're not.
Josh Harris has been getting a lot of great press lately.
All
right. Sorry, Maurice. Please continue.
Yeah, and also you can follow me on NBA Now and Then. NBA Now and Then, NBA's Greatest Comparisons. Zach has been on there. Lucas is a co-host. Chris, you got to get on there one time, man.
I'm down. We gotta.
Chris is younger than me, Maurice. He doesn't know any old players to compare to.
No,
Chris, let me put it this way.
ball.
When I met Chris, when we were both starting out as unpaid writers, Chris was still in high school in 2016.
All right, that's all right. We don't need to be that specific. Zach, where can the people follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Chavo NBA. Actually, Blue Sky, I think it's just at Chavo. We're going to rectify that eventually. On Instagram as well, at Chavo NBA. Like to be posting a lot of post-practice interviews, post-game interviews, so you get to see a little bit of a peek behind the curtain there. And then going to be dropping some more kind of short-form analytical videos myself as well. But PhillySportsNetwork.com is where you can catch my written work. Philly Sports Network and Metro Philadelphia, they are now one cohesive product, so we love that. Definitely check out the site for all things Philadelphia, but especially Philly Sports Network for your Philly sports needs.
Awesome. Everyone who's listening to this podcast should go follow both Maurice and Zach. Highly recommended. Thank you guys again for coming on. As always, you can follow us at Sixer Sense. You can follow us at the Sixer Sense on TikTok. At Sixer Sense is on Twitter /X. We're on YouTube. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. Go hit subscribe. Go listen to our episodes. We've got 442 of them for you to listen to now. And as always, peace out. Go Sixers. We'll talk about some real games soon. Bye, y'all.
See you guys.